Thank you, everyone, for your contribution so far. And I suppose I was obviously taken aback by so many of all your contributions. And Renee, you spoke about the difference that your child and all your children, the different way your children come into the world. And for me, differences should be celebrated, and that difference should never be a negative, and it always should be celebrated. And what I say to my children is, "What do you want to be?" They go, "Mommy, we want to be different," and what you have done for yourselves and with your family, your children, and what you're doing for other families and other children that haven't even been thought of yet is really, really powerful. And what you're doing for other families for the next decades upon decades is truly commendable. And I thank you all for your presence here this morning, because it's really, really important. And you've told us the most intimate details of your own personal lives, and that is not easy. I suppose my question, and Ciara, a very simple question, and why should we legislate for international surrogacy? And in your experience, and it goes to everybody in a way, but the pathways to parenthood. How do we create those pathways to parenthood for existing children like yours, and also for children in the future? And I also have a general question. Maybe it's a legal question to Claire. And we speak about ethical surrogacy, and everyone wants ethical surrogacy. And is there a definition of that? And some comment very regularly and there's an automatic assumption that compensated or commercial surrogacy is unethical. But actually, is not to recognise that woman's sacrifice unethical, and not to compensate that woman, because it's not easy to have a child. It is not at all easy. And is it actually unethical not to recognise that huge sacrifice, that huge gift, and that incredible miracle that woman is doing for another family? So thank you.
Thanks. So I think Ciara first and then Claire.
Yeah.
So your first question was to ask why we are calling for legislation. I suppose the biggest reason is to protect all parties. It's to protect our children, it's to protect the rights of the surrogate, and it's to protect the rights of the intended parents as well. So all three parties involved. Without legislation, there is the ability for exploitation. We all know there are bad people in this world. We all understand that. And I suppose without legislation, these bad people can do bad things. So really, Irish Families Through Surrogacy are calling for legislation to ensure that the systems, the process, the safeguards, the regulation is in place to protect all parties involved. You ask about pathways to parenthood then. So currently, as I said in my statement, I'm not recognised as Clara Matthews' legal mother. However, in the country that they were born in, I was recognised as their legal mother. So I think we need to look, abroad. We need to look at the Canadian system, the American system, the UK system. I know you spoke with Natalie Gamble yesterday, and she very well explained, about how we can put a system in place that there would be a post-birth transfer of parentage to the intended parents, but it's done post-birth, and there's not a long wait. In my own case, or our own situation, my children were 2 years and 10 months, I think it was, when my husband received his parentage. So they were nearly 3 before they actually had a legal parent in the state. So really, it's, you know, we are calling on the government to put this legislation in place so that the process is done quickly for the child, it's in the best interest of the child, but also that everybody within, you know, the three parties, our surrogate mothers, our children, and the intended parents are all protected, you know. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. I think Ciara explained so well there, but if I could just add, I suppose one of the reasons why we have to legislate is, first of all, again, I mentioned our international obligations to do so, you know, and I think whenever we ask ourselves, you know, why should we? Honestly, the question should rather be why shouldn't we? Because it is ultimately a right to beget a child, a right to respect for private and family life. And if you don't want to, do you know, that could be fine. I wouldn't recommend it, but you'd have to really justify it, you know, with, I suppose, in terms of a balancing of rights and proportionality, all those things. So, and as well, there was a reference earlier to the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and I just want to make one point, which is that the Committee on the Rights of the Child, which is kind of the reporting body for the Convention, they've consistently recommended to Ireland in their periodic reports that we should create these pathways, you know, and the Ombudsman for Children's Office, which obviously their primary aim is to uphold the Convention, they have also made submission after submission recommending that a pathway be created. Sorry, now onto my question. You asked, I suppose, is there a definition of ethical surrogacy? I'm sorry to say, in a legal sense, I don't know if there is, you know, certainly in Ireland, because we don't have any framework at all. But I suppose from my perspective, at least, ethical surrogacy, I thought your witnesses yesterday, you know, Dr. Horsey and Ms. Gamble, they spoke so well about this idea of we can't just have altruistic surrogacy mean ethical, and we can't just have commercial meaning, you know, non-ethical. And I think the primary principle that should be adhered to is respecting the surrogate, her autonomy, her informed consent, her decision making as a woman to decide what she does, you know. And I think that if we create a framework that has all of those kind of, that is regulated, that includes those safeguards, there is really no reason why it can't be done or why it shouldn't be done. I just hope I got everything else. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, just a follow-up, if that's all right, Chair. Yeah, and thank you. It's not should it be, will it be? It has to be done. Yeah. You know, that's my gut on this, because. But yesterday we spoke about the pathway to parentage, and the parental orders applications in the UK, and you know, is there something that we can improve on? Is that a really good template for us to be using here in Ireland, and you know, or for it to be that those concepts to be translated into our law? How does that fit in your expertise?
So I think the contributions yesterday, again, excellent. But what they referred to a lot is that the current system, do you know, I think previous witnesses kind of allude to, aren't we lucky that we have the benefit of the experience of the UK, which has had this system for so long. And so we get to kind of look at their reforms that they're proposing in their law commissions and say, could we not just start from that perspective? And I think it's been circulated to the members, but I have proposed a part that would set out exactly how we could do this. And it first of all sets out that there would be principles. Again, it's about informed consent, autonomy, the right to respect for private and family life. And there are, you know, definitions of compensation in there. There is, you know, definitions of exploitation and all of those things. And I think just what we really have to do is set these all out for ourselves. It's very possible, you know, over a bank holiday weekend, it's very possible. So I think that, I'm sorry, I've run away with myself. Did I answer your question?
No, brilliant. No, yeah.